Hello hunters! As I'm writing this script, I'm realizing this video is either going to be the worst take in the history of Monster Hunter or resonate with a lot of people. Just watch the Monster Hunter 20th Anniversary Special program if you haven't already. As we were counting down to the top 10, there was a pretty clear pattern, one that I've seen generating a lot of discussion on Twitter. At the risk of sounding divisive, today we're asking, did the Fifth Fleet ruin the Hunter's Choice poll? We've just celebrated 20 years of Monster Hunter, and what an absolutely fantastic celebration the Monster Hunter team brought to the table. There were some fun updates coming to Street Fighter and Monster Hunter Now, a fantastic panel segment with prominent creators in the Monster Hunter space, and even a new poll for Best Music where you can cast your vote for your favorite monster themes. So why this? Why now? Before we get started, I'm giving away a copy of Monster Hunter Wilds. The Gleam link is in the description below, and I'll be announcing the winner when the game comes available for pre-order. The winner will receive a digital game key, Steam gift, or PayPal in the USD amount of the base version of the game, so be sure to get those entries in and subscribe to stay up to date. You won't want to miss it. So, as a community, we're excited about what's to come. More updates on Wilds later this year, and celebrating our mutual love for this 2-decade-old franchise. But as we were counting down the top 20 in anticipation of the anniversary, a lot of questions started popping up. In fact, most of the comments I got seemed quite puzzled by the way the results seemed to lean further and further in favor of the 5th generation, or remarking pleasant surprise when a monster that was not 5th gen took its place in the lineup. In either of these scenarios, much of the conversation in the comments centered around proximity to the 5th generation, with a number of disillusioned feelings about how pre-5th generation monsters were getting less spotlight. Even the iconic Rathalos himself, present in every Monster Hunter entry to date, missed a spot in the top 20 by a single place. Pour one out for the old bird. As we narrowed down the top 20 to the top 10, many of us found ourselves more and more fervent about what monsters should get a chance at the spotlight. There was this palpable sense of tension as we anticipated seeing some of our favorite monsters slowly lose out to the newer ones. For the first time, I saw this feeling of dividedness amongst the Monster Hunter community members who miss aspects of earlier experiences that helped shape Monster Hunter into the games we know and love today. With all the hype for Wilds bringing us together, those earlier experiences that cemented Monster Hunter in our hearts have never seemed further away. Now, before you misunderstand, I'm not hating on World or Rise. I absolutely loved World, and this is where Monster Hunter franchise sung to me the most, with the most hours clocked more than Portable 3rd Try and 4U combined. I even did a video on World encouraging hunters old and new to experience World for themselves, even with Wild's release just a year away. The passion and dedication of the Monster Hunter team is all over World, and with Rise as an entry from the Portable team, there is a similar passion to provide a worthwhile and enjoyable experience unique to World's legacy. There is something for all sorts of players in the 5th generation, and a pretty wide representation of monsters and playstyles baked into the experience. It's the passion for innovation, evolution, and dedication to finer details that truly made World shine. It's that polish, that dedication, that immersion that brought Monster Hunter to the core gamer demographic worldwide. It's no secret that World is Capcom's highest selling entry in the Monster Hunter franchise. They took risks, knowing that they could alienate a core part of their fan base, and propelled their creative vision to critical acclaim and commercial success. As we anticipate Wilds and what it could be, we can see the self-same dedication to authenticity and immersion on their product that are the hallmarks of the Monster Hunter we know today. What made World shine so brightly at its release is now getting a fresh coat of paint. It's serving as the evolution in the franchise and taking it to the next step, to be more ambitious, to be more grand, more immersive than ever before. Their passion for the ecology, environment, and endemic life in the Monster Hunter games are written all over this trailer, and we've all been buzzing with ideas about how this might take shape at the game's release. For all intents and purposes, this has served to bring us together under mutual excitement over a new entry in this beloved franchise like never before. So why is there disappointment at all? Is it just old hunters being grumpy that their favorite monster didn't get featured in the poll? When we look at the numbers, we can see how the Monster Hunter franchise grew to around 4 million units in sales. I do recognize that Stories 2 came out after World's release, but I'm including it in the 4th generation for sake of argument here. There's a pretty steady trajectory in the way that the series grew by iterating on the Monster Hunter formula and sticking to its roots. This is an accomplishment they were proud of and reluctant to risk jeopardizing. Nevertheless, Capcom still took steps to break the mold, innovate, and try something new even in the face of criticism and opposition. So when we visualize it this way, what happens when we introduce the 5th generation? All of a sudden, the numbers shift dramatically, and the steady growth of prior entries seems like a paltry figure compared to the overwhelming and unprecedented success of Monster Hunter World. In fact, when we compare the cumulative sales of Monster Hunter World and Iceborne with that of every prior mainline and portable entry in the series, we can see a difference of over 400,000 units, which is more than the entirety of the first Monster Hunter game's sales, sitting around the 315,000 mark. For better or for worse, there has been a drastic shift in the playing field to the point that hunters prior to the 5th generation have been entirely displaced. For example, if we were to assume that the units sold for Monster Hunter 4 and 4 Ultimate combined were each their own unique player, the 8.3 million units sold in total still leaves a difference of 14.2 million when compared to Monster Hunter World's units sold. This means that the player base has shifted in such a dramatic and drastic way that earlier hunters prior to the 5th generation are now the minority, with newer hunters outnumbering the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fleets combined. The 5th fleet now represents the majority of opinions reflected by the Monster Hunter community as a whole. And where did we feel this impact most directly? In the Hunter's Choice poll. It's here we saw a pretty distinct pattern throughout the days leading up to the anniversary and throughout the top 10. Examining the top 20, I've broken out each of the monsters into categories here. One for monsters introduced in the 5th generation, one for monsters not present at all in the 5th generation, and monsters present in the 5th generation that were introduced in previous entries. Again, we see a clear correlation here. Monsters that were either introduced or present in World or Rise took the vast majority of the leaderboard. And to a degree, this makes sense. In a popularity contest, we vote for what we like. Some may like the fight's mechanics, some may like the design, some may like the lore and ethos behind the monster itself, some may like the arena the fight takes place in, some may like the monster's musical score, or a combination of any of these factors that would influence our preferences. And you know, they're all valid, with each hunter carrying a unique taste or reason for their favorite monsters. How exciting it is to see monsters you know and love take their place in the lineup. But popularity contests like this often have a critical flaw, and that's bias. As human creatures, we're often blind to our biases, so often that we don't realize they're there or how they influence our decisions. In business, Harvard Business Review defines proximity bias as how people in positions of power tend to treat workers who are physically closer to them more favorably. Proximity to something creates a sense of familiarity, and it's out of that familiarity that subconsciously predisposes us towards things that we already are comfortable with. It's our voice as a collective that puts us in this position of power, and our workers in this example would be the monsters we've grown to know and love, and how this bias influences the votes we cast. It's with this proximity in mind that the pieces start to fall into place. Generally speaking, the 5th fleet would be most familiar with the monsters present in the 5th generation of games. These are the monsters they've first experienced, leaving the most lasting impression, and the ones they've come to associate most closely with the Monster Hunter brand. These monsters to them are a key part of the beautiful memories that were foundational to their Monster Hunter experience, even if they've only deeply experienced one generation of the series' games. So, am I suggesting that the majority of the Hunter's Choice poll results can be reduced to simple proximity bias on behalf of the 5th Fleet, as if to dismiss the validity of their votes and silence their voice? Absolutely not. But to understand the why of these results, it's valuable to paint you a picture of how these results came to be. This is the first step to understanding and acceptance. Think about it. As the leading majority of Monster Hunter players around the world, it's entirely reasonable to expect that the representation of monsters in the 20th anniversary would be predominantly present in the 5th gen. This leaves only Lagiacrus and Abyssal Lagiacrus in the top 20 to represent monsters exclusive to earlier entries. They voted with their hearts, ones touched most by the monsters they've closely associated with their experiences. While Valstrax technically didn't appear in Rise, its Crimson Glow variant does. Similarly for Old Fatalis, where regular Fatalis appears in World. It would be entirely irrational to expect someone from the 5th Fleet to vote for a monster they have little to no exposure to and wasn't a formative part of their Monster Hunter experience. So let's return to our original question. Did the 5th Fleet ruin the Hunter's Choice poll? If you've been with the series for some time, and the monsters that were a part of your own formative Monster Hunter experience are either underrepresented or entirely absent, Sure, I could see how you might feel a bit jilted by the results. There's been a massive paradigm shift, and the things you've grown to appreciate about Monster Hunter have fallen out of favor with the community you've been a part of for so long. I hear you, and I was even cheering for more pre-5th generation monsters alongside you. But did they ruin it? If you find yourself asking this question, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm not going to invalidate feelings of displeasure at the results, and I'm not going to scold you if you feel that the 5th Fleet is largely to blame for the outcome. Instead, I would encourage you to consider this. To ruin something implies it's been irrevocably changed for the worse, yet the success of World and Rise tell a different story. They've brought great advancements to the series, to the point that millions across the globe have gotten to fall in love with the same series you've treasured so deeply. You've gotten to experience hunting alongside other like-minded players by the masses. The Monster Hunter series as a whole has been able to flourish, no longer a cult following where you found it rare to encounter another hunter in the wild, and speaking of wild, the 6th generation will do much of the same to bring Monster Hunter to a yet wider demographic and greater audience. These are good things, and continue to secure Monster Hunter a place in the gaming industry for years to come. Where other devs are laying off employees by the hundreds and studio closures are displacing huge pools of talent in the industry, Capcom has increased base salaries by 25% and bonused existing employees thanks to the success of these games. And as we look forward to Wilds, think of all the new experiences we'll get to share in, as a collective, as a community. To dismiss the new as derivative and inferior to the original hits with the same energy as the book was better. It's not a good look. Let's set the example of camaraderie and collaboration that the Monster Hunter community is known for. And to the 5th Fleet, you were once new yourselves. But now you've come to be seasoned hunters in your own right, eager for new challenges that await us when the 6th Fleet arrives. When they do, it'll be your turn to take up the mantle as hunters did before you. The 6th Fleet will look to you to be that example, to guide them in their own formative Monster Hunter experiences, and to show them the ropes. You've outnumbered us earlier hunters, and you've made quite a name for yourself in this space. Your voice has been heard, and I feel that's something to celebrate. I would encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to look back to prior entries in the series, try them out, experience them firsthand, and to familiarize yourself with the steps past hunters took to get us here. I would love for you to see the magic we fell in love with ourselves, so we can share with you in what made our journeys so special. To the community as a whole, this isn't us and them. This isn't 5th Fleet versus everyone else. This isn't something to be divided over. We as a community have so much to look forward to, and as Wilds takes shape, as the series evolves, and as we get nearer to the day of release, we will stand unified in celebration of this new adventure with arms wide open to welcome all the newcomers we'll get to share in this new magic with. The Monster Hunter community is a cut above the rest, let's be real. In the way that we support one another, work together, and celebrate one another. This is why we have such a positive reputation ascribed to our name. This has been directly due to the character and quality of interactions a hunter brings with them when we join hands and overcome obstacles together. This is the spirit of who we are. This is what we do, and we are strong. So as we look to our next update, likely Summer Game Fest on June 7th, let's stand in celebration of who we are as a community, both as friends and fans, mutually sharing in a franchise that we're all passionate about. Change doesn't necessarily have to be bad, and with the way Wilds is looking, I'm feeling like this is the tip of the iceberg in the way that Capcom intends to shake up the formula to bring us something fresh, new, and exciting. So as I continue to create content on Wilds and share in this anticipation with you, I would invite you to discuss this with us in the comments. Everyone has a voice, everyone deserves to be heard, but not all messages are the same. Let's approach these discussions with unity, harmony, and excitement in our hearts. A community has no place for cutting others down or begrudging others their cause for celebration, and I want to continue to serve a community that I feel brings integrity and value to its interactions. Be that example of who we are, so others can see just what's so amazing about Monster Hunter and its community. In the meanwhile, there's a playlist on screen of all the Monster Hunter videos I've done to date. I do a lot of theory crafting and speculative pieces on what we can expect in Wilds and what they've been suggesting in the trailers or interviews. It's been a load of fun to engage with you all, and I can't wait for the discussion we'll get to have once you've watched this video. So, to all hunters old and new, may the Sapphire Star guide your way. Until the next video, I'll see you in the comments below.